What is going on, everyone? Badger here. Make sure to like and sub, and let's get into this. We've been talking pretty extensively because the further down the rabbit hole we go, the deeper it is, giggity. And part of that is because that ESG money, at least at the time, was strong. And even though it's drying up now, the effects of it and the hustle companies, as far as I'm concerned, that come in and specialize in, while some might think causing, I like to think it's just they like to refine the race hustle and the grift. They come into already pretty much corrupted game studios that already have a bunch of woke people, but they're just not quite woke enough. And so they bring in these consultant companies to just put a refinement, put those cherries on top of their already horrible decisions. And here we have, again, like as we've said, the deeper we look into this, further down the rabbit hole it goes. It's an iceberg. It's an iceberg and a Sweet Baby Inc. And then now we're going to see a Black Girl Gamers. Maybe they're on top of the iceberg, but that iceberg is wide and deep. Also giggity. Let's see. Forspoken consultant Black Girl Gamers lashes out on Twitter in defense of Sweet Baby Inc. And of course, one of the most ironic things of all of this is wouldn't know who half of these companies are until they joined in on this harassment campaign against Cabrutus. Of course, they call it a harassment campaign against them because we're just calling into light, question, pointing it out, shining a light on it, however you want to phrase it, of their involvement. Now, the degree of how much involvement, at what part they came into it, and what I'm focused on now is we need to start proving and finding out exactly what decisions they made, i.e., the biggest and most biggest example of everything is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. So that'll be the one to watch. But exactly what they've had a hand in and not just consulted on. It's been a crazy couple of weeks since the details surrounding the work of Sweet Baby Inc. took the internet by storm. Now we are seeing coordinated pushback from both games journalists or journalists and other DEI advocacy groups, many of whom have espoused, most of them, by the way, have espoused racist hiring practices and anti-gamer rhetoric. The most recent of these extremely inclusive companies, and of course, the irony that these are the so-called tolerant, safe space, micro transgression people, and they say the worst, most xenophobic, segregationist, racist, just anti-human, just across the board, and without irony, even without irony, and with a certainty. Like I said, most of us wouldn't even know that they exist, yet for their own words on the twit twats. The most recent of these, blah, 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 to berate gamers is, of course, is racist and sexist trolls. Now, we may be that, but we're much more. That's just one small part. You got to have fun. And here, of course, that is the company. And we've heard it, and I've mentioned them before. Like I said, Sweet Baby Inc. adjacent. But that is the company Black Girl Gamers. And by the way, no shout out if it was just a group of like, yes, queen, go ahead. The idea is, you can hear. We'll let them, and you'll see. They're not exactly tolerant. So a consultation and advocacy company that openly promotes hate against gamers on social media, much like Sweet Baby Inc. has done. Black Girl Gamers, which was founded in the UK in 2015, began as a closed Facebook group that excluded anyone who wasn't female or Black. I don't personally have a problem with that, but I think if there was a group that was only white men, you would have a problem with that. So that's where the disparity would come in. This group was started by J. Ann Lopez. All right. A Black woman who claims to, it sounded like she should have started Hispanic Girl Gamers, but okay. A Black woman who claims to have always loved gaming, but couldn't find any other Black women to play with. Why would you give a shit? Why would you give a shit what color? It's fine. It's fine. Maybe while gaming, you want to talk about like specific hair and or lotion products. Other than that, other than something specific to Black girls, what the fuck would you want to? What would you care? I never once thought about the ethnicity of the person I was playing with, and I know I played with all of them just by how they speak. It is worth pointing out that gaming has always been open to any game, of course. And that's the real point. All the things that they said. That blah, 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 blah. Star Wars, comics, video games, it was always for everyone. It was always inclusive and diverse. It always had women gamers, of which were unicorns. And if you found one, you held on with consent. Yeah, no, that's always been the other big rub, is that men always loved when a chick loved Star Wars. Again, unicorn. It was a rarity that was like so awesome. Yeah, so that's that. After the Facebook group grew in size, the next step for J.Ann was to take the race hustle to the next level, which resulted in the formation of Black Girl Gamers as a company in 2022, with J.Ann Lopez as the CEO, as you do. While Sweet Baby Inc. was originally funded by the nonprofit Baby Ghosts. Now, of course, that we've tracked back to a Canadian base. It's Weird Ghost. It's a subdivision of that. And these are all seems to be just shell companies funneling of ESG and other corrupted monies, largely by the people who don't know what their money is being used for. Black Girl Gamers received their funding by invoking the name of George Floyd, St. Jesus George Floyd Lionheart. Their rise to relevance was largely built on the back of the Black Lives Matter movement. And as we've seen, I'm sorry, the idea behind it, sure. I also would be as bold enough to tell you that, yes, all lives do matter. Yeah, I'm one of those. I know. I wasn't washing black people's feet in the streets, unfortunately, which was fucking happening. That being said, yeah, a lot of race hustling was made, and the biggest of which, of course, was those BLM founders, those trained Marxists who said it out loud, and then, of course, kept all the money and bought their $3 million homes around white people. Respect the game. I do. That was a good hustle. You guys got a good one there. The rise to relevance was largely built on the back of the Black Lives Matter movement, as well as through acquiring a partnership with the failing live streaming platform Twitch. Oh, I was going to say how'd that work out for you, but obviously we can see the company would quickly shift from being a closed community that promoted racial exclusion into a full-fledged DEI advocacy group that sought to interject wokeness into any game they could consult on. And this is where Nerd Wars would point out, and the wokeness was already there. They're called in at the very end to refine on what they've already done, and they complain about it. And I've watched 6 hours of this stuff, and I know more than anyone about anything because I've watched 6 hours of it, and I'm not corrupted by the Kool-Aid at all. And there's no way these people would ever lie. There's no way these people would ever lie or believe their own shits, and I take them at 100% face value, even though there's other things proving that they're ideologically possessed, and we can't trust what they say at face value. He probably wouldn't have said that last part. That's my editorializing, but you get the idea if you've ever watched he and I argue on a stream, which you should, every Saturday on Nerd Rage. 10 a.m. PST. Okay. In an interview, sorry, let me refocus here. The company would quickly shift from being a closed community that promoted racial exclusion into a full-fledged DEI advocacy group that sought, okay, the best example of Black Girl Gamers affected the narrative, and here we go, was the abysmal flop Forspoken, a game that was so universally hated, not even the Access media could run cover for it. Yeah, and even I heard about this before really looking into all this. In an interview with Her Agenda, that's funny. The Black Girl Gamers CEO would give us Black Girl Gamers. I can't hear it. I only hear Sam Jackson saying Black Girl Magic. Black Girl Gamers. CEO would give us some of the usual talking points regarding what she is trying to accomplish in the gaming industry. As you probably have already assumed, it sounds an awful lot like Sweet Baby Inc. because they all do. Here's what she says they do. We call out the industry for some of the issues we're noticing when hiring Black women, Black representation in games, specifically Black women in games, and discrimination in the industry in general, she said. Over time, we've grown and attracted partners, clients, and sponsors to create events that blah, 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 blah. So it can be used for creating content to curate educational programs, to hype propaganda, to heighten Black women's equity, again, forcing equity into the industry and provide, okay. So that's what Black Girl Gamers is. We're a popular, different social media platform. We have a community of around 10,000 people on Facebook. I'm sure none of those are there just memeing on you, and which is great. And we're LGBTQIA plus. You all are. We're really trying to hone and create an intersectional. Gary always loved to talk about intersectional feminism, intersectional Black Black woman and Black non-binary space that keeps gamers essentially safe, while J-Ann never actually explains what she's trying to keep Black women safe from. And of course, yes, they're going to reference that Danny Lalanders who just talks about microaggressions. And I know I'm safest when I'm around people that look like me. You know, she's advocating for actual segregation. They're literally ignoring all the actual woke civil rights struggle of the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s to this. And they're all, as we've pointed out, the most light-skinned white girl valley sounding Canadians. No offense, my Canadians, but again, they're all representing this Black struggle that's mainly an American thing, okay? At least in the context that they're referencing in the BLM and all that. It's asinine. It's asinine. And again, in a space where Black girls were already welcome. The real rub of this, and this is just going to go down to their cope, and this is basically, I will just explain, the real rub of all of this is that aside from the fact that there were already plenty of Black girls in gaming and Black people in gaming, it's not enough for them. And the reason they're not enough for them is the same reason they say it's not enough in the industry, is there's this magical fucking hidden racism, even though all the favorite media in the 80s and 90s was full of Black people. We've talked about this extensively too, from the TV shows and the movies, whatever. There's this magical racism that's stopping equity, that if this magical systemic patriarchal racism went away, suddenly everything would be 50-50. Well, there's a reason there's not 50-50 white men playing in the NBA, and there's a reason there's not more Black. It's because naturally you can't force the natural progression and interest of people and cultures and skin colors. And Jordan Peterson talks about this. And the more egalitarian the countries, the more definitive the differences, in this case, between men and women go. And I would wager that is no difference between the different ethnicities and cultures. The Black people playing Star Wars are the Black people playing Star Wars, and there's no magical racism from stopping Black people from Now, there might be a social stigma. Social stigma is one thing, but that has nothing to do with this context of coming in and DEI and race hustling everything and saying that a group that was already open isn't open and kicking out all the OGs and then being shocked when it fails because you kicked out the OGs. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. Make sure to like, share, and sub. If you're aware of Black Girl Gamers, if you played Forspoken and you were wondering why it's Forsaken, if you were wondering why it sucked, well, apparently these might be one of the reasons, because if nothing else, Sweet Baby Inc. and Black Girl Gamers and all of these DEI consulting companies, while they may not be the cause of all these horrible decisions, they are certainly involved with all these horrible decisions, and they need to be called out, and them being associated with the game is a super big red flag, and that's why the Steam curator made by Brutus is so important. So again, let me know what you think of this in the comments. I'm charged up, as you can see. I'm Ben Shapiring, and I'm angry chipmunking it. Let me know what you think of this. Make sure to like, share, and sub. If you've done that, thank you. If you're gonna do that, thank you. And well, bye.